Haven't our speakers been great? Can we give them all applause? It's awesome to have so many different perspectives, and just want to really thank the farmers for coming out. This has been great. Everybody shared some really great information that I hope you found to be educational and maybe even eye-opening, especially if you didn't know what a GMO was. I hope you feel empowered. What I want to share with you now is a personal story, hoping my journey provides insight to the necessary changes we need to make and what is at stake if we fail to make a move. My name is Tara Parks. I'm an 80s baby. Anybody else 80s babies? That's right. Well, I, like many in my generation, was raised oblivious to all things concerning food. I have no memories about food other than we ate. We didn't discuss health or nutrition, and we certainly didn't ask the questions that myself and my family ask now. What are we eating? What is it made of? Where did it come from? How will this food affect me? Is this a genetically modified food? In stark contrast to my childhood, my children are very in tune to the topic of food. We continue to teach them about nutrition, how to make healthy choices, and why it's so important. We ask the questions we never asked when I was a child. We aren't perfect, but we live very aware and concerned about what we are putting into our bodies. We, like everyone else, are plagued by the need for modern convenience, a direct response to the busyness of life. Every day we set out to do better than the next, though. All of that, however, isn't the way it's always been. Up until 7 or so years ago, we ate mainly according to the standard American diet, which is often called the SAD diet. Most people are not naturally motivated to change out of their own will. In many cases, people who make drastic changes do so as a response to something happening in their life. They receive a wake-up call, usually in the form of a negative health report or by an unfortunate event taking place in their life or the life of someone they love. Many years ago, we were living our lives like most people. Our major wake-up call came in the form of a 7-pound, 4-ounce baby girl born with a hole in her spine. She was born the fourth of our 5 children, and I remember an initial feeling of disbelief. How could this happen? After all, we had 3 seemingly healthy children. The more I sought to know the truth, and through all that I eventually learned, I realized it was a very simple thing to understand. And my husband, in my state of health, played a role in our daughter's formation. It makes sense, right? That her complete growth would be dependent on the readily available nutrients from my husband and I? It does now, but it was not something that we considered then. Simply put, our daughter was not supplied with the nutrients needed to ensure her complete formation and growth. When it came time for the egg that was to supply part of her genes to be matured, my body wasn't able to provide the necessary nutrients. It was in a stressed, nutrient-depleted state. My body was no longer able to keep up with the continual lack of nourishment. How was it going to supply what was needed for another growing body? We don't guilt ourselves, don't get me wrong. We didn't know any better. We never took serious the issues of food and health, but never in a million years would we have allowed something to happen to one of our children on purpose. Having a baby born with such a serious birth defect opened our eyes to many things. Not just the state of our food industry. We now deal personally with the state of our healthcare system on a regular basis, and the damaging effects of the standard of care adopted by so many medical professionals, most very well-meaning. Before our daughter was born, they had her medical care all pre-planned. They had expectations, recommendations, and actions all lined up, ready to do what they knew to do. Thankfully, we had awoken enough that we were very in tune to everything going on. We asked questions, did our own research, sought out our own methods of care. I believe with all my heart that our response and willingness to go against the grain is why today she is a 6-year-old about to graduate kindergarten, walking, running, free of medications. You don't hear that much in the world of spina bifida. She was a child who few expected much from. We were offered to not go through with it. But she amazes the world around her every single day. We no longer live in the day when research required a trip to the library, where one would have to flip through encyclopedias and books. We live in the day of rapid technological advances. We practically have all the information we could want or need at our fingertips. While that is a great thing, it also provides the opportunity for a lot of confusion, which can lead to stress. Seek to find the common sense in it all. And out of all of it, adopt the belief that real, whole food is where it starts. Our bodies can take quite a beating, but the fact remains that we are all at inherent risk of experiencing at any given time the results of how we choose to care for our bodies. Can it always be explained? No. And please don't take my belief concerning our daughter's birth defect to mean I believe we know it all. It's just what makes sense to us. And even though we live in a broken and perfect world, there are many things we can do when we pay attention to provide a safeguard, and no amount of effort is ever wasted. There are a lot of things out of our control. The air we breathe is one of them. But are things we cannot control strong enough to take rule over what we can? Please do not believe that lie. You have an immense power within you, a power afforded to you. It's called your free will to choose. Every day you wake up knowing you will need food. What choices will you make? How will you vote with your dollars? What will you promote with your lifestyle? What seeds will you plant for the next generation? What legacy will you leave for our children? You have that much of an impact, whether you accept it and believe it or not. I encourage everyone here to take care of you, as you don't only affect you, you affect a whole lot more. Everything that's been shared here, the issues with GMOs, the serious threat that is Monsanto, should concern you. They're issues that should rock you to the core. After all, they affect the core of your very being. Care enough to allow what you've heard and learned today to impact changes in your life. Don't wait for a more serious wake-up call. This is it. Begin to change your habits. Shop where you might not have thought to before. Our local farmers markets are an excellent option. Think twice about what you put in your cart. Hold tight to the belief you vote with your dollars. Read labels, ask questions, get to know your food. Where does it come from? How was it grown and cared for? Consider what effect it will have on you. Be willing to be inconvenienced. A favorite quote of mine comes from a blogger I follow, Paleo Mom. She says it's only effort until it's routine. What I hope you take from my story, if you forget everything else, is your choices matter. What you choose affects not just you, but the generations to follow you. It's not easy, convenient, stress-free, or always fun, but it's rewarding, and you can't really afford to not pay attention, especially if you plan to procreate. I believe with all my heart that carelessness in childbearing is nothing short of a game of genetic roulette. It's not always a hole in the spine, an extra or missing chromosome, denial of oxygen, or early birth. It may not always be a real obvious, but it's always risky business. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my story, but don't forget, we are all in this together. Thank you.